Good morning. So today we're gonna talk about drop shadows, the cornerstone of any modern design. So let's go. Okay, so let's talk about shadows. We're starting with an empty artboard, creating a rectangle for the background and filling it with a light blue color. Okay, but to have a shadow we need an object to cast it, so I'm creating a rectangle. So let's add a small border radius to the rectangle and then let's fill it with a blue gradient, and I'm gonna make it angular so it's gonna be a little bit diagonal. Playing around with the colors a little bit so it's gonna be a little bit more juicy and saturated. Now to have a comparison of how the shadows work, let's duplicate the button and place them side by side. So the default shadow is black, has a Y value of 2 and a blur of 4. But if you add it to a pretty big object, it kind of disappears and it's almost barely visible. It kind of looks like just a little bit of a fuzzy border. But we can make the shadow, of course, a lot larger by modifying the Y value and the blur. And of course you can also use the X value to move the shadow around, or use the negative Y value to move it to the top. But in UIs, the X is pretty much always 0 and we're only playing with the Y value, and the shadow is pretty much always at the bottom of the object. A good idea is to have the blur value be double that of the Y value. So if your Y value is 24, let's set the blur at 48. The other thing is for the shadow to not be too visible, so in most cases the opacity of 40% is the maximum, so you shouldn't really go over that. For some colors it can be a little higher, but normally just stick to 40 and under. So just to show the difference, I also copied the same shadow to the second button, but this time I'm gonna change the color, so I'm picking the color from the bottom corner of the actual gradient, so that's the darker part of the gradient. And then I'm setting the opacity at 40%. And now the shadow on the right looks a lot better and a lot more natural. If you're working on an artwork or just a portfolio design, you can add a second shadow to give it even a little bit more depth, but this one make it a little bit darker and a little bit closer to the object. Now the default shadow, the black one, is a little bit subtle, so it's not really that bad, but I'm gonna show you how most people do the shadows wrong. So I'm duplicating the button and I'm creating a very strong, very hard shadow that's almost completely black. And that contrast makes it a lot harder to actually focus on it, and it actually breaks the entire coherence of the design. So whatever you do, avoid shadows like the one on the top. You can also play around with some lighter shades of blue, so have like a very light shadow, but still adding a little bit of color to it makes it look a lot better on the design. Okay, so we've covered the basics of shadows here. So use that trick to make your shadows look beautiful and more realistic and make the design shine. Everything I'm sharing in this video is actually also in the free chapters of designing user interfaces, so if you don't have the PDF, you just go to designingui.com and sign up for the newsletter at the bottom of the page, and then you'll get the link to a 50-page PDF in your welcome email. Okay, so that's it for today. See you next time, and if you can, please share the video on social media. It's gonna help me grow this channel and upload a lot more content for you. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, and see you next time.